Hello, my name is Dr. Bradford Kolb, and I'm the Medical Director at Huntington Reproductive Center in California. Egg donation is a fairly simple and straightforward process, whether it be done in our center or another center. The treatment is really standardized across the board. In selecting an egg donor, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. Growing Generations will evaluate the donors before they even go on their boards for you to review them. Many of our couples want to select an egg donor that simply looks like them or has a similar ethnicity. But you're not obligated to select a donor by any means. You can choose a donor based on educational characteristics or some other combination of features and characteristics that mean a lot to you as an individual. It is important to share that information with Growing Generations because they can help isolate down those donors that you should look at, and that way you're not being overwhelmed by many donors that are inappropriate for you. Once the donor is actually selected, they undergo a rather vigorous screening process. This involves a consultation with a geneticist. We're looking at her personal medical history, her family medical history, her ethnicity. This gives us information to know which genetic screens we should be running on the donor, so that way we can minimize the risk of passing any undesired genetic traits onto your children. They undergo a psychological screen as well. And this is also very important because we want to make sure that the donors understand this process, they're well engendered in this process to follow through with the directions, they understand conceptually the medical treatment that's going to occur, and also very importantly that this is your child and that they have no say in this child and moving forward. The physician is going to walk through this entire process with the donor. We're going to look at their medical history, their family medical history. So there's several points where all these different factors are being reviewed on multiple occasions. We want to make sure that the donor understands all aspects of the medical care. We perform physical exams on the donor, and very importantly, we do an evaluation of the pelvis by ultrasound. We're looking at the ovaries. Want to make sure there's no unusual cyst there that's going to put the cycle at risk. We also can look at features on that ultrasound to assure that we're going to have the best chance of having a successful cycle in regards to retrieving a satisfactory number of eggs. The donors will also undergo screenings for infectious diseases, drug use. They'll undergo hormonal evaluations to look at their egg quality. If the egg donor has a significant other, the significant other undergoes screenings for infectious diseases and drug use as well. At this point in time, your physician will be receiving all this information back, and if everything looks appropriate, they will give a clearance to Growing Generations to move forward. The next step is legal contracts. The legal contracts simply put on paper what this process is. It protects your rights as the intended parent. It also puts in the contract what the obligations of the egg donor is, her compensation, and so forth. So that way everything is simple, it's in black and white. Once everybody's been fully evaluated and ready to move forward, both the egg donor and yourself as the recipient will start taking birth control pills. The birth control pills allow your physician to get the menstrual cycle of both the donor and yourself in sync with one another. It's a very critical process. Once the egg donor has a menstrual cycle, she'll be following up with the reproductive endocrinologist to have ultrasounds and blood tests and start her stimulation. The goal with the stimulation is to produce approximately 10 to 20 eggs. So sometimes through the stimulation process, the doctor is going to be adjusting her medications. Once the eggs are mature and ready to be retrieved, the egg donor will be going in for an egg retrieval. And then depending on your treatment regimen, you'll be coming back anywhere from about 3 to 5 days later for an embryo transfer. At that point in time, typically your physician is going to look at putting about 1 to 2 embryos back inside. But this is a long personal discussion that you'll have with your physician as you review the embryos. These recommendations may change based on the quality of the embryos, your desires, and how your physician feels that you should best move forward. You will also be going in for ultrasounds and blood tests as well. It's very important that we make sure that the uterus is treated appropriately so that when the embryos go back inside, you have the best chance of those embryos taking and resulting in a pregnancy. And based on your physician's preferences, you'll spend another half an hour to an hour in the room just resting after the transfer. The takes approximately 2 weeks to get the pregnancy test results back, and hopefully we have exciting news for everybody. Over the next several months, you'll be going in for a series of ultrasounds and blood tests, at which time we can confirm the viability of the pregnancy, if it's a singleton or even twins. Over that course of several months, you'll be weaned off your hormones, and really at the end of the first trimester, you're going to go back to your obstetrician, a simple routine pregnancy. By simple, I mean uncomplicated. Even though you've gone through all these steps and procedures to achieve your pregnancy, it doesn't put it at high risk in any manner. Also keep in mind, at the time of embryo transfer, if there's other embryos of good quality, those embryos can be taken and frozen. You can always come back and use those embryos years down the line for a second child. It's a much easier process and a much more affordable process to use those frozen embryos. And as you go through this process, please keep in mind that you have a large team of caring people at Growing Generations and your monitoring facility that are there to take care of your needs. So never hesitate to reach out if you have questions or need any help. Thank you very much.